Hi, everyone. Welcome to Simply Devoted. It's been a long time since I've done a devotional, and it was the holidays. It's now 2025. Time is getting away from me, and it's just like, wow, time has just flown, and I am sorry about not getting anything up. But the other day, my husband and I were talking, and we were discussing. It's the end of the year, tithes and offering and things like that, and my I've heard from many people lately, including some of my own family, that says, well, it doesn't say in the Bible that we have to tithe. And besides that, preachers have abused money. There's a lot of preachers that have mega churches that have 5 cars and multi-million-dollar mansions and all this sort of thing. And so I just thought, I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was thinking about the Widows Mite, and we all know the story in the Bible, and I'm going to read it to you real quick. This is in Luke 21, 1 through 4. Now this is Jesus. And he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw also a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. So he said, "Truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offering for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood that she had." And I was talking to my husband, and this thought just occurred to me the other day when I was thinking about this story. At the time of Jesus, during the time that Jesus was on the earth, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he was constantly, they were trying to trip him up. They wanted to kill him and everything else. They were so corrupt. Jesus would even get on to them and say, you're whitewashed tombs. In other words, you're clean on the outside, but you're not clean on the inside. Also, they were very wealthy. The church leaders of the day were very, very wealthy, and a lot of the people would have to they were already having to give taxes to the Romans, but then there was also a temple tax and a tithe. And, he got onto them and said, you all strain over every little, jot and tittle, and cross your T's and dot your I's. And you even tithe your herbs and your spices and all of this. And it basically was all just man's law. The original law did not tell the people that, they had to tithe over every little tiny thing like the priest kind of held over their head. And so I told my husband, I said, the widow that gave the 2 mites, she gave to a corrupt system, and she knew it. She knew they were corrupt. She knew they were living well, but she did it anyway out of obedience. So for those who say we don't have to tithe, here's Malachi 3:10. "Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it." So this is a command with a promise. Bring all the tithe into the storehouse. It doesn't say if you want to, or if you feel like it, or if the preacher lives poorly, or whatever. It just says that you're supposed to do it. So again, I was thinking of the widow, and she was just being obedient. And we're supposed to just be obedient. If the pastor or if you're giving, I don't know who you're giving to. You're actually supposed to give to your local church. And if you're a shut-in, you give to the church that's ministering to you. I know my grandma, my family was raised Assembly of God, but when she got to be a shut-in, the Baptist minister would always come over and visit her and pray with her, not her regular church. So she started paying her tithe to the Baptist church because that's who was ministering to her. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whoever is ministering to you, if you're a shut-in or you can't get out and get to church, or if there's someone that you really, really are blessed by on YouTube or the radio or whatever, and you can't tithe to your regular church, tithe to them. But you are to tithe to your regular church first. And tithing goes back all the way to the very beginning in Genesis. Genesis 4:3 reads, "In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel, for his part, brought of the firstlings of his flock, the fat portion, in other words, the best. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So it says in the very beginning of that verse, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. It doesn't say it was the best. It doesn't say it was the nicest fruit. It was the, greatest fruit. Just said he brought him an offering of the fruit. Abel, on the other hand, brought the firstborn of his flock, their fat portions. He brought the best of his flock. Cain just threw some fruit on a thing and said, here's my offering. So the Lord looks at the heart when you're giving. And once you let go of that offering out of your hand and you put it in the plate, or you send it in the mail, or however you give, the Lord looks at your heart. What on the receiving end is done with it, they are held accountable for. So even if you give money to a certain ministry and you find out that that minister has fallen and has done all sorts of because it happens, that's not on you. That's on them. The Lord looks at your heart when you gave. Were you giving joyfully? Were you giving out of obedience and wanting to please God? That's what the Lord looks at, not the amount. I mean, give what you can. I mean, we're told to give a tenth. But you know what? Times are so hard right now. I mean, there are times when I've not even been able to give a tenth, especially on the store. I told my husband, I said, everything that I take in goes right back into the operating of the store, and I feel really bad about it, but I can't help it. I mean, it's just not there. But the Lord has blessed me, and he will bless me in the future. It doesn't mean you're just going to live a life of Riley where you don't have to do any work the rest of your life. That works sometimes for some people. I don't know, what the things behind that is, but give out of your heart. Give to your local church, give to the ministry that ministers to you. And I also looked up in Genesis when Abraham gave to Melchizedek. And this is Genesis 14:18 through 20. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tithe of all. And I believe this is after Abraham had to go to battle to rescue Lot and some of his family, and they got quite a lot of spoil out of that battle. And he went straight to the high priest and tithed on it. David would do the same thing. You'd read in Samuel, David was constantly offering to the Lord. And so in closing, Paul warns Timothy that pastors and elders are held to a higher standard of accountability. So again, don't use corrupt preachers as an excuse not to pay your tithes and offerings, because the Lord will bless you whether or not they've done the right thing or not, because they're going to be held accountable for what they did with that money when it came into them. So have discernment, kind of research. If you're giving to a ministry that's not your local church, research it. I said in another video that I've been giving to Samaritan's Purse when I can for the people in North Carolina, because I know where that money's going to go. They actually have an accountability. They will put on their website, we gave away so many hundreds of generators, so many tiny homes, and then they even said they're going to be in there for the next 3 to 5 years helping these people because it's been devastated and they've lost so much. So give into ministries that have integrity and accountability. And I would call that an over and above. That's an offering. That's not your tithe. Your tithe goes to your local church. And the local church then should be doing things. My local church has something called the Reach One Initiative, where they have programs and things that help our community locally. And I'm sure your church does too. Many of them do. So first of all, give to your local church. And then if you want to give an offering, your tithe is 10%, and offering is anything over and above. So give offering wherever you feel like the Lord leads you to put into a ministry. That would be fine. But don't use the excuse that, well, preachers are corrupt and they live high on the hog, because the widow knew that. When she gave those 2 mites, that was all she had. She knew those priests were not being, worthy of it. They were living above the, they were living, like I said, they were very wealthy, well-to-do. And she gave anyway because she was giving out of her heart and she gave to God. And then Jesus saw that. And he said, this widow has given more than all of the rich people that put money in the box to be seen. And another thing, don't be giving to be seen. Try to be discreet, or don't go around blaring, I just gave blah, blah, blah to such and such ministry. Nobody needs to know that. That's between you and God. So I hope this little devotional will help you in the coming new year. That maybe you'll make a New Year's resolution that I'm going to spend less on myself and spend less on silly stuff that I don't need. Maybe do without some Starbucks or something that you spend a lot of money on every day on your way to work or whatever. And say, you know what, I'm going to give that to a ministry, or I'm going to give that to my local church. So I hope this has blessed you all today. Happy New Year. Thank you for watching, and God bless.